Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we will present our assignment last week about 10 important products Steve Jobs helped brings to the world. Before we start the presentation, we will introduce each of ourselves. My name is Dewan.
My name RAMADHANI SAPUTRA INDRAYANA.
My name is AMARULLAH PRABOWO.
My name is ABHIPRAYA RASENDRIYA ARDANY.
My name is MAQBUL Raja.
My name is ISNAINI SEPTIANA.
And my name is RATIF CAHYADI.
Steve Jobs. Stephen Paul Jobs, born in February 24, 1955 and passed away in October 5, 2011. He was an American business magnate, industrial designer, investor, and media operator. He was the chairman, chief executive officer, or CEO, and co-founder of Apple, the chairman and majority shareholder of Pixar, a member of the Walt Disney Company's board of directors following its acquisition of Pixar, and the founder, chairman, and CEO of Next. Jobs is widely recognized as a pioneer of the personal computer revolution of the 1970s and 1980s, along with his early business partner and fellow Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak. Apple II, launched in June 1977, and the Apple II was the first successful mass-market PC. Jobs and Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak designed the Apple II, and it changed computing around the world. The first Apple II had specs you would laugh at now, but they were quite good for the time: a 1 MHz processor, 4 kilobytes of RAM, and an audio cassette interface for programs and data storage. The machine had external 5.25-inch floppy disk drive as well. The Apple II and its successor would later pave the way for business and consumer PCs.
Lisa. Well, Apple's 1983 Lisa computer was a failure of sort because of its $10,000 price tag. It did introduce many computing features that continue to drive computing innovation. The Lisa was one of the first computers to offer multitasking, a document-based graphical user interface, an optional hard drive, and bundled office software. The Lisa is arguably the least important item on this list. And if that's the case, you can see just how notable Jobs' contribution to technology products are to today's society.
Macintosh. The original Macintosh computer was advertised during the Super Bowl in 1984 and famously decried the status quo of personal computing with imagery related to George Orwell's 1984. The Macintosh redefined PCs and was the first commercially successful personal computer to feature a graphical user interface and a mouse. The Macintosh line faltered in the early 90s but began to regain steam again with the iMac.
The Mac. A year after return to the helm at Apple in 1997, the company launched the distinctive and divisive first generation iMac. The design was a radical departure from the Macs of old and helped Apple regain its footing with minded, minded consumers. Designers Jonathan Ive with oversight from Jobs led the design team in the creation of the iMac, and he led help design most of the products used below.
iPod. The iPod M3 player locked a little wacky when it first hit in the skin in 2001. Outside of the Walkman, there really wasn't a single portable music device that changed music so drastically. The first iPod retailed for $400 with 5 GB of storage, but now there's a host of iPod devices, ranging from the tiny iPod Shuffle to the feature-filled iPod Touch. Each with its own purpose. The iPod line has had the best-selling music players in the world for several years, and you can count on it staying that way for some time. iTunes. It wasn't enough that Jobs revolutionized the MP3 player. He also needed to give people the software to manage the content. iTunes started as an interface for playing your music files, but now it is one of the largest music stores in the planet. iTunes account for more than a fourth of music sales happening today, and the trend will likely continue in its favor as the iPod continues its reign as the most popular music player. Apple also recently introduced iCloud, which will integrate with iTunes and Apple products so users can store music in the cloud rather than solely on their device.
MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro launched in January 2006 shows that Apple was once again getting serious about innovating in the laptop space with high-end parts and aluminum bodies. The Pro design likely took cues from PowerBook G4 but include Intel Core Duo processor rather than PowerPC chips, a move that opened up a lot more potential for Apple machine and showed the Wintel Alliance was going to last. The MacBook Pro paved the way for the MacBook Air a few years later, and the Pro still retails today as one of the classic laptops around. iPhone. While some observers might have been disappointed by Tuesday's launch of the iPhone 4S instead of a much anticipated iPhone 5, there is no doubt that the first iPhone changed the smartphone landscape as we know it when it launched in June 2007. Steve Jobs' dedication to a strong user interface showed with his focus on simple mobile operating system paired with a 3.5-inch touchscreen. The iPhone now has more than 50 apps available for it, and the phone is the best-selling smartphone in the world.
MacBook Air. The first MacBook Air didn't seem as important as it is now, but that just shows how Jobs was thinking ahead yet again. When Apple launched the MacBook Air in January 2008, it seemed like a stripped-down laptop that ditched the CD-ROM a little too soon. But now that we're in the age of cloud computing and streaming media, the need for physical media is essentially gone. The MacBook Air and Intel's Ultrabook followers will continue to change how we look at laptops and personal computing. iPad. The January 2010 launch of the iPad tablet showed that Jobs yet again was ahead of the curve by bringing back tablet computing. Tablets were first shown off by Microsoft in 2001, but tablet PCs didn't take off with consumers until Jobs paired a tablet with the simple iOS mobile operating system and a variety of compelling apps. The iPad is by far the best-selling tablet in the world, and many analysts believe it will stay that way, even with competitors like Amazon Kindle Fire and Samsung Galaxy Tab 10.1 and 8.9. So that presentation from our group. Thanks for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.